Hello YouTube, I'm Elwirfy and today we're going to be playing some Starcraft 2. I thought about kind of how we've been doing the Starcraft games so far, and just kind of thinking about the way remastered, with remastered coming out for the original. I was originally going to think about just purchasing the remastered and getting into the Starcraft 1, but I figured since, you know, looking at the way multiplayer works, I've found that or at least for the original version of the game, that multiplayer wasn't really working that well. Like, you still had to watch like the old games, maybe play some single player, but there was no competitive multiplayer aspect. So I figured I'd just go ahead and go to Legacy of the Void and talk a little bit about the units, go through each race, kind of talk about strength and weaknesses, some things I like to keep in mind, just so there'd be like a general groundwork for units when we talk about you know, more advanced compositions of things. And since this is the last, I guess, expansion, this is the final version of StarCraft 2. So since I know there's no longer going to be any more changes, no more changes in unit composition, I thought now it's finally okay to actually get into the nitty-gritty of the strategy. Because of course, as you've probably seen from other videos, I do have some Wings of Liberty multiplayer matches, and you know, you can still play those versions if you want to, but the majority of play, especially from professionals, is going to be for the Legacy of the Void stuff, as well as the remastered versions on, you know, the special private servers that tournaments will host at. So I figured I'd go through each unit, just to kind of talk about it. I'm going to be showing some examples, certain combat that happens, just to kind of think about how much damage stuff does, so that way you can think about what units complement each other and which will not. So to start it all off, of course, as you can see, also based on what I have selected, is the SCV. SCV is your builder unit. We're going to zoom in down here. This is the SCV. If it'll, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. If you want, you can go ahead and order it to move across the field. You can see about how fast it goes. Let's see, I'm going to move it all the way to the end here.
Move it!
And I'm going to count the seconds that it takes to get from one end to the other. Okay.
Woo-hoo!
1, 2,
Overtime!
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it took about 10 seconds to get across. Alright, I'm not going to do the math on exactly how quick that is, but he's going at a relatively quick speed for infantry units and, you know, the bigger units. And this is probably about, you know, what we'd set as like the baseline for unit movement. And I only bring up unit movement because, again, when you're moving your forces around, sometimes it's helpful to have units that move at similar speeds. For example, if you are taking, say, you know, your Medevacs to go with your Marines and Marauders, well, you don't want the Medevacs to fly off way in front, leaving your infantry defenseless, so then you lose all your health, you know, your health regeneration. So just some simple things to think about. Also,
You're the boss.
Cool thing about the SCV is, for one, if
Yes, sir.
I'm going to move him underneath
Sure thing.
these guys. If I go down here to this mineral patch and I right-click
We
it,
hear ya.
it should lose collision. Yep, see, just went through the ghost.
Will
Lost
do.
collision right there. So that's something to
We'll
think about
butter my
when you're
biscuit.
trying to have SCV scout. Click on mineral patches. That way they won't actually run into enemy units as well. They'll just go straight through them. Now they will try and avoid buildings. They can't go through buildings, but it's the units themselves. So that way units can't, you know, block up, you know, certain things. So what can the SCV do? Well, it's pretty much the only kind of worker you have. You only have one worker in this game. You can build a variety of things. I'll go ahead and show them off in a bit of a pre-built fashion. This is the command center. In the command center, you can build SCVs. That's where you get the workers from. Make an orbital command center, which is this thing right here. So you can see clearly looking at it. And you also can get a planetary fortress. Planetary fortress, just being a command center with guns on it, which is good for if you're, you know, getting attacked a lot versus the orbital command, which is the better option in general for your command centers. So that lets you call down one of these things. This is a mule. As you can see, the mule, he's going to run out of time on things, but he can mine things incredibly fast. So that's just something nice to keep in mind. So for the Terran army, since we're focusing on the Terran army this time, because Terran are, in my opinion, the simplest army to understand. Pretty much, the SCV, you go over, you can make two kinds of structures in the game, which is the same for all races. You have, you know, you can build structures and you can build advanced structures. So the basic build order, as I'm going to now demonstrate down here, where there's a bit more room. You start out with your command center.
Yep.
Right? You have it. This is just so that'll get built first. And I am gonna go through building each one of these to just show off about how long it would take to get everything done. Excluding the command center though, I'm just putting the command center up first right now, for the sake of having it there as a representation. While that's happening, I want to point out that the command center takes about 100 seconds to build, so we'll take quite a bit of time. And of course, feel free to look over at this clock down here. That'll show the amount of time, so you can see about how long it would take in real life time as well. You'll notice that the SCV, like if you click on a building, you can have the option to select the builder. If you say set it to hotkey 1, and say I go and I click on my tank or whatever, I can do 1F and I can immediately get the worker that's building that building, and you can do that for any building you want to, and that's really nice. And then of course you can go ahead and change up hotkeys. Hotkeys are very important in the game. So now that we have our builder selected and the command center is about to be done, the first thing you will note, because while this mode doesn't particularly show it, you can build 2 things. At the beginning of the game, you can build 2 things. You can build a refinery.
Vespene geyser required for placement.
Yeah, which I'm not going to actually build. But then the first step in terms of making units, because again, Vespene geyser is just how you get the gas. First thing you do, you have to build a supply depot. Don't have a choice. You have to do it. Some people in build orders will get the gas Vespene geyser first. I like to do the process of making the supply depot first with the SCVs. Yeah, this episode is just going to be about the SCV. Just kind of talking about, again, mostly the build order. Kind of thinking about the functions of each building. So again, you feel free to watch how long it takes about. So that took about 30 seconds in game time. And that's supply depot. Supply depot increases the number of troops you can have on the battlefield. What is another thing it can build? Well, it can build, once that is built, it will gain access to building the barracks and the engineering bay, if I remember right. Yes. So you go ahead and you can put down a barracks. Sir. Barracks is usually the next thing you want to be making. Again, keep track of the time if you feel like it. Barracks will take about 65 seconds of in-game time based on the clock. So the in-game timer is a little bit faster than real life, which is a good thing because you don't want the game to take too long. Average game of Starcraft will last about 20 minutes, I'd say. Maybe 30 minutes if it was a really long game. But this game isn't actually as long as some people like to make it out to be. It's a fairly fast game. I'd say a fast game would be about 10 minutes. So then once you have the barracks built, I'll just go ahead and come over here to show you. We can put a tech lab on it. The tech lab allows you to, in the barracks, produce the Marauder and the Ghost as of this version of Starcraft, which is, again, still a final version. And the tech lab also allows you to get upgrades. It allows you to get Combat Shield, which increases the health of your Marines. Stimpack, which is applied to Marines and Marauders, which allows them to shoot faster. So that's really important because it allows you to just, higher DPS. Then you have concussive shells, which only apply to the Marauder, and that allows, it slows down the movement speed of opponents. Very good against Zerg and Protoss.
Good job, huh?
So then, one thing, the next available thing, so you have a couple things then that are available. So you have this, then this, then this. Now in a, kind of, I guess, a line, vertical line down, I'll even make some more SCVs. Why not? To speed it up.
SCV ready.
SCVs don't take that long to build. This map just happens to let you build stuff really fast.
Roger.
So I'm going to go ahead and build everything that will become available once the barracks has been built.
Bad news.
And then you'll get all of these.
You're the boss. Go ahead.
So what happens when you build the barracks? Well, the barracks will also unlock this advanced section. You'll gain access to the factory, which also gets you access once the factory is built. Actually, no. Right, yes, you do need a factory, and then you are given access to the starport. You're given access to pretty much everything, except for the starport academy. Right.
You scared me.
And then the last thing, you get fusion core.
Well, butter my biscuit.
Starport. So this is essentially the build order in a nutshell. How I've laid it out here. So you have a command center, you get supply depots let you get a barracks. Barracks gives you have access to the engineering bay, you have access to bunker, missile turret, sensor tower, and then the factory as well. Kind of jumping over here, so just kind of be aware of that. A little fact. And then once factory is built, you have access to the starport, Ghost Academy, and the armory. And once you have all that, if you get the starport, you can move on to the fusion core. So as you can see from Barracks is where you'll get the Marine, the Reaper, the Marauder, and the Ghost. From the factory, you get the Hellion, Widowmine, tank, a siege tank, Hellion in its Hellbat
fired
mode,
up here, boss.
and a Thor. From the starport, you get Viking, you get Medevac, Banshee, Raven, Battlecruiser. So that's the entire variety of units in the game. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14. Including the SCV, that'll be 15 units total. So, while the Barracks it also has a second ability, which is getting the reactor instead. The reactor will allow you to, as you should hopefully see down here, look very closely, you get to make 2 units at once.
Coming through.
So that's always nice to have on your Barracks. Same thing can be those attachments can be given to the factory and to the starport. You can swap them around as you wish. For example, say I make a reactor on here and a tech lab
complete.
on here. If I wanted to, I could pick up this factory, pick up the starport, and land them just as spots, because all of them are interchangeable. And it allows you to have different access to different kinds of units. So yeah, now this factory has a wide range of units, versus the starport only having access to 2 kinds of units. Something interesting to note. As I will now go ahead and reland.
Unacceptable landing zone.
I'll go ahead and reland them, and then as soon as the starport lands, you'll be able to see Battlecruiser. That only comes if you have the fusion core. You can build, when you make the tech lab on the starport, you get access to the Raven and the Banshee, but you do not have access to the Battlecruiser until you get the fusion core. Again, with this one, as you can see, the factory does in fact require you to have a tech lab in order to get the Thor and the siege tank. Of course, the Hellbat and the Hellion modes are interchangeable, although the Hellbat mode is only able to be unlocked through the acquiring of the armory as well. You also need to have an armory, and Thor actually requires an armory. Also, Ghosts, again, they work with Tech Lab. You need to have a Tech Lab, but you also need to have the Ghost Academy. Ghost Academy, from here, the Ghost can launch nukes and other such things, but we'll get more into that later. In the engineering bay and the armory, you will get the upgrades. Inside of here is where you'll find the attack. So if I'm in a build order and I say, here's where you get the +1 weapons, that's where you're getting it from. You know, I'm not going to say go to your engineering bay and make sure to click on, infantry weapons 1. I'm just going to say get attack +1, infantry attack +1, or something like that, or whatever it is. So that's very important to establish kind of the vocab here. Bunkers with 4 inside of 4 Marines inside of them, or you can fit 2. Here, I'll just show you. If I make these,
Ghost reporting.
you can, for example, throw a Reaper into a bunker.
Don't leave me
You can
hanging.
throw a Marauder into a bunker.
Out with it.
And I'll admit, I'm not.
Roger.
It's been a while because I've
Copy
really used
that.
ghosts, but you can. Can you throw a ghost in a bunker? Maybe you can. Yes, you can throw a ghost in a bunker. It takes up the amount of slot space as a
Just-
Marauder. As you can see here, the Marauder and the Ghost both having taken up 2 slots. SCVs
Go
can
ahead.
also, a unique ability of the Terran is that we can actually repair our buildings. So, here, say for example, I'm just
Go ahead.
I'll siege the tank. We have more to siege. A little off.
I hear you.
Say I order,
It's on.
start shooting at the building, right?
Can do.
So the building is taking damage. So
Now,
here,
now,
let's bring it down to
now.
where it catches on fire. Okay,
Watch this.
so as you can see, it's burning down now. It'll slowly start to, well, not slowly, but it'll start taking damage as the building starts to burn.
In the rear
SCVs,
with the gear.
take them and right-click, and they will repair SCVs. Now you'll notice in the top right, while I do have, I think it's infinite money or whatever, it does in fact cost resources to repair buildings. So keep that in mind as stuff gets damaged and you repair. It'll mess up kind of your build times because you won't have resources coming in necessarily right away. Another important thing to note,
You scared
while
me.
the other two races in Starcraft do have restrictions on where they can place their buildings, Terran don't have any restrictions, so you can build your buildings wherever you want. Another key feature, that the Barracks, the factory, the carport, and the command center are the only buildings in Terran that can be lifted off. It used to be that the engineering bay can be lifted off, not anymore. And armories have never been able to lift off. But these are the buildings that can fly, and they're very useful, as you can probably guess, for repositioning your base. Let's say, we need to move our stuff there, so let's go ahead and
Unacceptable landing zone. Add-on complete.
let's go build over here. Very nice to see. So yeah, buildings can fly and land. Another very useful thing about Terran base building. Another interesting feature of Terran base is that supply depots can actually raise and lower into the ground, making for perfect doorways, which is very good because a lot of protect units if you run in one side, and it also can have a sealed wall off, whereas again, the other two races cannot have a sealed wall off. There will always be a way inside of an enemy's base, assuming they're also wanting their units to escape. Now, it is possible, of course, to get around this, but that's a bit complicated and means to do that. Something that some players like to do is they like to do a bunker, and then a barracks, and then an engineering bay, in which case the barracks becomes the doorway. The barracks will lift off and then land, as you can see. So that's a good way to do that. And let me think if there's anything else. Okay, so the sensor tower allows you to detect things. That's something unique to Terran, is we have a sensor tower that lets you see enemy blips moving on the map. It used to be able to detect, but it no longer is able to do that. The missile turret is the detector. It is anti-air only. It does not, in fact, have any means to shoot the ground. It's armored, and it does 12 damage, and fires fairly quickly. Fires at 0.8 seconds, so it's a pretty good building, pretty good defense structure. You'll often see these put in the mineral lines of Terran bases just to make sure there's no harassment potential that could come through. And then it's from this building, this is where the Ghost has access to his nuclear weapons. You can arm the nuke with a silo, boom,
Nuclear missile ready.
and then the Ghost can go ahead and nuke that. I'll leave that there for when we get to the Ghost part. And let's see, what else? Don't want to miss anything, this is kind of important. Bunkers are the only structure that you can fit units into, but command centers can actually pick
What's
up
going on?
SCVs. So if you'll look, I can actually load
Bad news.
the SCV in here, so I can carry things. So that is something to note. The command center can, in fact, pick up SCVs now. If I turn this into normal command, however,
Upgrade complete.
I then can no longer load anything in. You can only load SCVs into regular command centers that have not been morphed. Either way, however, orbital command can still lift off and land like any other building, whereas the planetary fortress is not able to land. But it is, in fact. Can it not load? Oh,
Big job, huh?
let me get close to it. Maybe they can be loaded in as a protection. So yeah, okay. So the planetary fortress can load SCVs, but they cannot fly, whereas the orbital command can fly but can't load SCVs. There you go. Orbital command gives you access to calling down mules, which help you mine resources faster. They're very important, but they're a bit janky, you know, so they die on their own. So you got to make sure you continuously are using your mules to get the most resources out. You can call down extra supplies, where you say, hey, I need more supplies for not spending 100 minerals. Supply depot cost. Oh yeah, let me go through the costs real quick. That's important
Bad
to know.
news.
Command center costs 400 minerals, takes 100 seconds to build. Refinery, which I've not shown you yet, I'll go ahead and show you down here, because why not? Go ahead and build that down there. That takes a good 75 minerals and takes about 30 seconds of in-game time. All the times I'm going to say are in-game time only. Supply depot costs 100 supply to build, 100 minerals to build. Takes 30 seconds of time to build. The barracks takes 65 seconds to build and costs 150 minerals. Engineering bay costs 125 minerals and takes 35 seconds to build. Bunker, again, 100 minerals, 40 seconds to build. Missile turret is 100 minerals and takes 25 seconds to build. Sensor tower is going to be 125 minerals to build and 100 gas to build. This is the first so here's the first gas structure that you have access to, the first thing that costs gas for the Terrans, that comes out at the same time as the factory. The factory, in fact, is a little more expensive. Now, keep in mind, we're now going on to advanced structures. So if we go to advanced structures, the factory, as you can see, costs 150 minerals and 100 gas, which is only 25 more than the radar tower, or sensor tower. So just be aware of that. If you are planning on building a sensor tower, often it can be good to do barracks. Is he collecting gas and giving it to the... Okay, I've never seen this before. That's kind of cool. Although I appreciate that he's getting gas. Anyway, then the starport also 150 and 100 gas, 150 minerals, 100 gas. The starport takes 50 seconds, whereas the factory takes 60 seconds. It takes a full minute of in-game time just to make the factory. So if you're going to go factory, you really got to make sure that you have the, if your strategy depends on factories, make sure you're having good defense to make up for the lost time for making this factory. Again, the armory, which lets you get the vehicle upgrades. All right, so the engineering bay is infantry upgrades only. The armory lets you get, factory units. That's how we refer to them. We have barracks units, factory units, and starport units. Factory units and starport units come for upgrades, come from the army. As you can see here, you have, and now in this particular version of the game, of this particular map, this test map I'm using, they've been combined into one. But generally, there'll be a separation between vehicle and ship weapons. So that's very common. Again, finishing up the costs and everything, we have, with the armory again being 150 minerals, 100 gas. The Ghost Academy is 150 minerals, 50 gas. Takes 40 seconds. You must have a Ghost Academy in order to get ghosts. So that does mean that you need to get go through this process of getting barracks, factory, Ghost Academy, with a tech lab on this to make ghosts. That's the process you have to go through.
Big job, huh?
To do that. Let's see. And then, and then the fusion core is going to be 150 minerals and 150 gas, the most expensive Terran building that is not a command center, and only lets you build Battlecruisers, which is it's supposed to be the strongest unit in the game, but there's a lot of reasons why you don't see it on the battlefield. Partly because units themselves cost a fair amount of stuff on their own. For example, Marines cost 50 minerals, one supply. We're just going to go through all the cost of units, again, laying the groundwork out. Terra Marine will cost you 50 minerals and one supply of supply. So, you build a Marine, and boom, he's there. Marine does 6 damage, has a range of 5. If you're wondering what a range of 5 looks like, let's go ahead and have it order him to attack.
Bring it.
This is a range of 5, where you're looking at. This is a range of 5. Versus, here, let me grab, let me see.
Let's have a blast.
I'm just going to have him run down here real quick so I can show off his range, because he has a range of 6. He does 10 damage, and he does a bonus against armor. Marauders are a staple, like the Marines. Let's back him up a bit. And then order him to attack, of course, getting ready to hit the stop button. So see how there's like a minor difference. A minor difference. Again, let's...
Blow 'em all to hell.
So this is... So that's why these two guys work in sync together. Marines and Marauders, the bread and butter of the Terran army.
This better be good. You scared me.
SCV is not doing too good. Alright, so anyway, Reapers cost 50 minerals, 50 gas, take 1 supply. Marauders take 2 supply. They require 100 minerals and 25 gas. That's right, so in order to make a Marauder, it's the same cost as if you were making, where'd it go?
In the rear with the
It's about the same cost as if we were going to go ahead and make, like, the bunker, or the missile turret, or a supply depot. And it costs 50 gas, which is the secondary resource in the game. Minerals are mined through the SCVs alone, whereas You need a refinery in order to make to collect the gas, as you've seen me demonstrate. Then ghosts. Not going to forget about the ghosts. 200 minerals and 100 gas and 2 supply. Of course, again, they require Ghost Academy and a tech lab attached to it to be able to be built. Factory units. The first one, which is the Hellion, it costs 100 minerals, takes up 2 supply, and it can turn into Hellbats. Hellbats are also 100 minerals and 2 supply, again interchangeable. As I'll show
Talk
you.
to me.
This guy turns into Hellion mode, and then boom, back into Hellbat mode. Very useful, so they serve different purposes on the battlefield. We have Widow Mines that bury into the ground and do like little missiles. They're a good defensive unit. They'll be worth 75 minerals, 25 gas, 2 supply. A lot of things in the Terran army are 2 supply, so just keep that in mind. Tanks. So tanks are kind of they're expensive units, but they're really worth the price as long as you use them effectively. Siege tanks, which require a tech lab, require 150 minerals and 125 gas. Very expensive unit in the Terran army. But they do have one of the highest damages in the game, so very good to see that. And then of course there's a Thor, which is the most expensive ground unit that the Terran army has, which is 6 supplies, so that's going to be double of what the siege tank has. And it's going to cost you 300 minerals and 200 gas to make it. Again, you need a tech lab and an armory in order to actually make these. But they do very good anti-air damage, actually. That's how they auto-target in the game. They automatically go after the air targets. But and they have some cool stuff, which I'll get into.
Got something for me?
They can do a special attack, as I'll show off later on. And then you go over into the starport, in which case you have the Viking. So that's the fighter. It's back in Starcraft 1 we had Wraiths, but now we have the Viking, which is a really interesting guy.
You ready for war?
Because it can have an assault mode, which it does. It can do okay. It does 12 damage. Or you can have the Viking, which does 14 damage against capital ships and 10 damage against regular. But keep in mind, starships have a little less health than vehicles. For example, the Viking has 125 health, the Thor is 400 health, even a tank is 160 health. So keep that in mind. Vikings really are more for anti-air combat. Then you have the Medevac. Medevac is heals, and it's a dropship. So that means you can pick up units inside of it and then drop them off. And the Medevac is 100 minerals, 100 gas, 2 supply, and it doesn't have any fighting capabilities. The Raven is the Terran's only mobile detector. Besides, of course, some of the abilities inside the command center, the Raven is the most reliable way to have a detector who's always with your army. They can plant down some auto turrets and stuff, and they do have a special Hunter-Seeker missile thing, but again, this is a less used unit in the Terran army, unless you need detection. Which I'll explain why Raven's detection isn't always used later. But anyway, it's 100 minerals and 200 gas in order to be able to build it, costing 2 supply. The Banshee is it's an air-to-ground tactical strike aircraft, as you can see in the description, and it can actually cloak. So this is the Terran flying unit that can cloak. No longer is it the general fighter that was used in the original game. Again, costing 150 minerals, 100 gas, costs 3 supply, and it's made mainly to harass enemy workers and stuff, like enemy SCV, for example. But of course, any sort of anti-air defense, like a missile turret, will detect it, and these guys are fairly weak if you look at their health. Only having 140 health, not that much more than a Viking. Again, Medevac even having more health than Banshee.
Engineering at your
So
disposal.
that's something to note. And then finally, you have the Battlecruiser, which is 400 minerals, 300 gas, 6 supply. This guy, he's like super strong. I mean, if you come and take a look at him,
What is it?
he has 2 guns that fire. He has an ATS laser battery that does 8 damage, that fires really fast, and then he has an ATA laser battery which does 6 damage. So here, I'll have him
Whatever that means.
target that thing. And look at how much damage it does now. Pretty darn good, and it goes over time. very good against targeting,
You hailed?
you know, structures or
Will do.
and such, but not very good against lots of enemies, which is kind of
Acknowledged.
one of the main reasons why, again, this unit is not very much well utilized. So that's all of the units inside of the Terran army for Starcraft 2. Now with the SCV
What's going
unit
on?
officially covered. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about Marines, again, getting into more tactics. Again, SCVs are not used for combat, which is why I've stuffed the buildings and general informational dictionary stuff into the SCV video. So anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.